All right, well, that's the adjournment of the Madlanga Commission. A short testimony or time on the stand there by Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, who has been taking commissioners through his evidence statement at the Madlanga Commission. He started speaking at around about 2:30 this afternoon, back, of course, as we've just been hearing, on Thursday morning. He has essentially told the Commission that it is the first time ever that he was being accused of corruption in all his time in government and across different positions he has held. That's something that he said earlier on. The Commission, as you know, is probing allegations of criminality, political interference and corruption in the criminal justice system. Now, Minister Mchunu, who is currently on special leave, is a key figure. So his testimony is quite important in light of those allegations that were made by KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Madlanga Commission, first in July, of course, and then at both the Ad Hoc Committee and the Madlanga Commission. Clarity was provided earlier that Mchunu's testimony today was largely being delivered uninterrupted, meaning he is allowed to give his version of the issues without being questioned by evidence leaders and the commissioners. However, we saw, of course, the commissioners asking him clarity-seeking questions together with evidence leader advocate Lee Siegels-Ncube. So far, and in the main, Mchunu has spent some time explaining to the commissioners how he used his time during his orientation when he took over SAPS as minister, just to understand the makeup of the structures of the SAPS. He's spoken about how before he took over the reins, there was an extensive process that was made several years ago in the form of feasibility studies, in fact, dating back to 2019, which were initiated and undertaken to look at how various and different units or task teams within SAPS would then need to sit under one umbrella and one unit. Some of the other issues that he mentioned during his testimony include the fact that he did not participate in operational decisions, including raids or who was to be apprehended. You will recall, of course, some of the accusations alleged against him. He also told the Commission that his orientation as police minister continued beyond 2024. On the PKTT, a matter that is going to be revisited again when he takes a stand on Thursday, that's the Political Killings Task Team. Minister Mchunu says that the National Commissioner General Fani Masimula told him that the PKTT was not a formal unit, but an interim one that was on the 1st of December 2024. It would then be days later that he would then send that now infamous letter disbanding the PKTT. A number of issues, of course, that he spoke about, also mentioning questioning some of the budget constraints and concerns that were raised, as well as concerns that he had with General Dumisani Khumalo. But Canny, Maphanga has been monitoring all of these developments for us. Canny, of course, there is now that adjournment, the Madlanga Commission returning tomorrow morning with a new witness. But perhaps let's start then just in terms of your wrap with today's proceedings. We know, of course, that the EMPD matters were still very much front and center early this morning.
Indeed. Good afternoon to you, Nati, and to the viewers. Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, who is now on a leave of absence, started off his testimony by laying out his career or extensive career in public office to highlight at the outset that in all his roles in multiple offices or public office, he has never been accused of corruption. And this is the first instance in which he says that he's being accused of corruption through that 6th of July media briefing. Now, what he has chosen to do in his uninterrupted testimony, if you could put it that way, is lay the foundation for the establishment of the PKTT and why it was established, seemingly to disassociate it away from this claim that he had overstepped and that this was something that was now directly in the realm of operations. Because remember, the evidence-in-chief has said to us and shown us that this particular decision that he made it in silos and, of course, without consultation, and that it went directly, rather, further into the direct operations of the police, and it needed the National Commissioner at the very least to deal with that decision. Or if we accept that he had the power to make that decision, the implementation would have been the responsibility of the National Commissioner, not the Minister of Police. So essentially what he's doing is he's laying the foundation for what is seemingly or quite obviously going to be his defense when he continues to advance on his testimony in response to these very serious allegations. But I know that our time is limited. I'm going to bring in SABC News political editor Mzwandile Mbeja that joined us today for this particular testimony that not only delves into the legal aspects with the legislature but also has great implications politically, not only for Mchunu but for his home political party and the nation at large, because it does deal with our interest in security and peace within the country. So I think he's developed quite a strategic route to, I guess, disassociate himself from operations and try and provide a rationale for the decision by stating that this is a political intervention, not something that is accommodated in the SAPS Act. So to disassociate it from something that is directly linked to operations, but rather something that was a political intervention that was never going to be something that ran indefinitely.
In fact, thank you very much, Canny. It's going to be very interesting to find out from the commissioners, from the evidence leaders, when they now have the opportunity to put those pointed questions, because right now maybe it's still easier in terms of him laying the foundation. But some of the specifics, but again, as you have said, he already has said there are areas that he's not going to be commenting on because they tend to be operational and then it's outside of his jurisdiction. So I think the strategy that he perhaps has taken is to put himself quite far away from the actual operations, because that is not part of what he does, and just deal with issues that are only at policy level. And of course, you are quite correct that this goes beyond just the legalities. For him and perhaps for his party, it's also to do with his with politics. I mean, as we sit here, he currently has stepped back from his duties as even in the ANC. Not only is he on leave on government. So those are quite important, because he is a senior member of the ANC, and perhaps with the ANC going into elections of its new executive in 2027, I think his name is one of the people that is being touted. So clearly, when he comes here and articulates some of these things, I think not lost on his mind would be that whatever he says somehow does resonate with the constituency and perhaps with the people at large.
The difficulty with that particular approach is particularly with the evidence of Brown Mokgotsi. We do see WhatsApp exchanges. Now, we don't know if that signal message was that of the police minister. We haven't heard his version as to whether or not he engaged in signal conversations with Brown Mokgotsi. But in one of those messages, he asks, allegedly, one of those purported messages, he allegedly asks, was the arrest effected? Now, that is directly into operational matters. We know the PKTT decision took place in December, and right at the center of holidays where everyone was on leave, and he was fresh into his deployment as Minister of Police. So it raises questions as to the immediate disbandment and why it was undertaken so quickly and why it had to happen in such a fast and hasty approach following those two operations that took place at the home, one of alleged cartel member Vusimuzi Kat Matlala, who's alleged to be funding those alleged presidential ambitions, and then of course the alleged cartel member Katiso Katie Molefe, who's alleged to enjoy very close proximity to high-ranking SAPS officials, which to some extent has been proven through CCTV footage, where we're seeing high-ranking SAPS officials visit him in the prison, and of course CCTV footage at his home when an officer identified to be under the command of Deputy National Commissioner Sabia was seen leaving with a bag. So there's a lot of evidence that actually points to a possible different scenario. Even though he tries to distance himself, the evidence is still quite there that needs to be explained as to why this particular alleged cartel member was giving so many monetary favors to Brown Mokgotsi, and then of course why all these high-ranking SAPS officials were linked to these alleged cartel members that the PKTT was honing in on.
It is exactly that explanation. In fact, as we were starting to speak here, we basically said today he has that opportunity of explaining himself, of laying the ground. But for me, what would be more important is how he will respond to some of those questions that the Commission will be asking, to say, yes, we understand this is your role, but here is someone who then writes to you or says this to you. So on what basis and why did you even entertain him if you are not operational? So for me, it would be very interesting. As for someone like Brown Mokhotsi, and that will even be more interesting, because you had Brown Mokhotsi himself saying some of the messages are manufactured by him. So clearly, I don't know what sort of stance the Commission will take in relation to him. I know that his evidence, if I'm not mistaken, is not concluded yet. So, but I mean, how much weight will the Commission put on some of the things that he says? Yes, there is some of what you can see that it's evidence, but it is quite interesting. So the Minister will have that opportunity. You know, from Thursday and perhaps Friday, it will really, for me, be very interesting to hear how he explains away certain areas, for example, things that you have just mentioned, because he has set the foundation of saying, when it comes to operations, I'm not involved. This is where I am. So then the question is, but this message points to operation. So what was happening?
Indeed, thank you very much. That was SABC News political editor Zondile Mbeje. Of course, it is still early days for the police minister. Senzo Mchunu is now on a leave of absence. Of course, this foundation that he has laid does not negate from the very serious questions that may emerge from the kind of hard evidence that has been put before this probe that places him in slightly tricky position as they continue to probe these very serious allegations that emanate from that December decision to disband the PKTT. Now, Mchunu is expected to return on Thursday. However, tomorrow we'll hear from acting or suspended acting EMPD police chief, that is Brigadier Julius Mkhwanazi, who also is facing serious allegations of running an alleged parallel structure that ran a reign of terror or alleged criminality within the city of Ekurhuleni. That testimony will begin at 9:30 a.m. tomorrow morning when he takes the stand. It's over to you in studio.
Thank you so much, Canny. Maphanga there, of course, in conversation early on with the politics editor Zondile Mbeje.